VG10 stainless steel. Is it right for you? That's what this video is for, to help you find this out. VG10 is a very popular stainless steel, and one of the most common steels we get asked about at our company, and our best-selling series is even made using it. But just because it's talked about a lot doesn't always mean it's right for you. There are reasons VG10 is popular though, and it's more than just marketing. We're going to teach you all you need to know about VG10 here. Timestamps are in the corner for specific sections too, so let's get right into it. Brad here from Sakai Ichimonji Mitsuhide. We've been making knives now for over 70 years. Now before we start, keep in mind when we talk about steels, we talk about them in the situation that the steel is being turned into a knife that has been made well and suitable for a Japanese professional audience. Also, steel alone doesn't dictate a knife's quality. It is just one component of it, but it is an important one. And whether it's right for you, well, it depends on what you're looking for. On that note, let's get into it. VG10 stainless steel is a traditional ingot steel made by Takafu Special Steel based in Fukui Prefecture. It was invented over 60 years ago and it goes by a few names. VG10 is most common, but you'll also see it as V10, V-Gold10 or V-Kin10 in Japan. Takafu Special Steel uses VG10 without the hyphen in it, but these days the community at large sometimes puts it in there, including us. They're the same thing though at the end of the day. VG10 has been a popular steel in Western-style Japanese knives for a long time, giving it the position it holds onto up until today. And we now also see this stainless steel often in Japanese-style knives too, such as Wagyuto and Wa-Santoku knives. While other steels have come out since then, it is still the steel both home users and many professionals swear by, including in Japan where it's popular for home users and chefs alike. The reason for this is because of what VG10 excels at. When professionals choose a knife, they're mostly looking at three core values. Does the knife cut well, or does it have good kiriaji? This is mostly determined by the knife's creation, so it's forging, heat treatment, and sharpening. Steel material plays a role too, but it's less important than the artisanship process. Does the knife balance well, or does it feel good in the hand and have a nice center of gravity that suits its wielder? Knife creation plays a part here too, but the handle attachment or etsuke process determines this heavily. And finally, is the knife easy to maintain, or does it have good characteristics like ease of sharpening and log edge retention? This is inverse to the kiriaji section in that while the creative process is a factor, the steel material itself determines this characteristic the most. VG10 excels in the two categories it can impact here, being a steel that can be turned into a knife that cuts well while having good edge retention and being easy to sharpen. It's a great steel, provided the knife is made well. Let's break those two conditions down further. It's also a great steel from a manufacturer's perspective too, and this isn't something talked about all that often. Takafu Special Steel claims that VG10 has very good machinability, and we agree. And if steel is easy to work with, more manufacturers are going to use it, and you're going to see it in more stores offered at competitive price levels. Remember though, knives that are made well go through many steps, not just machining steps. Much of the work is done by hand. You can see this via our own video showing how we manufacture our Sword FV10 knife from start to finish, made with VG10. Because this steel is easy to work with, it means that manufacturers can make a knife that cuts well and is easy to maintain, all while keeping costs down as it can be less laborious. Another way to look at it is that with VG10, you can make something high performance without a high price tag. Keep in mind though, we refer to machinability here. While we do have forge-welded VG10 knives as well, including our higher-end Kinemeki series, these aren't as common on the market as forge-welding VG10 is a little bit trickier. Overall, it's a very balanced steel, both for the manufacturer and the end user, and that's why we think you see it on shelves a lot more, at least in that mid-range price tier. Let's break the steel down against other stainless steels seen in Japanese knives. We place VG10 in an area that ranks high on cutting performance and sharpenability. Looking at other steels, there are steels like VG1 that offer similar hardness, but the difference in their composition changes the ease of sharpening. VG10 has cobalt in it, which means that it doesn't get as hard to sharpen at higher hardness levels like VG1 does, at least depending on the tempering methods of the knife. Do remember though that this is based on our own sharpener's experience, having worked with steel for decades with various models. So while this is just our experience, we hope that you consider it an expert one. We also should compare this to a more recent style of steel, powdered high-speed tool steels, sometimes just called powdered steels. These are steels like SG2, SPG Strix, and others, and they are generally considered to hold better edge retention than ingot steels like VG10. And our chart backs this up too. But is this necessarily a good thing? Well, that depends on the user. In the store, we have used and made knives with many different steels, including VG10 with our sword FV10 and powdered steel with our Kitameki. Now, opinions vary based on the craftspeople and the thousands of chefs we've spoken to, but if you hear a phrase like powdered steels like SG2 have better edge retention than VG10 during your research, we have our own hypothesis behind this statement. Our theory comes down to the structure of the steel itself. Steel made using powdered metallurgy has a very uniform structure that is indeed very hard. However, and this is perhaps because the grain structure is so fine, when the edge begins to lose sharpness, it can feel like the knife rounds over and performance loss is both fast and noticeable. VG10 by contrast has a coarser structure, and this isn't a bad thing, just a different thing. When VG10 loses sharpness because of this rougher structure, it can still feel like it bites into the food and glides through quite smoothly. Because of this, while it can be said that steel made using powdered metallurgy might at least scientifically last longer, VG10 can have a practical sense of lasting longer. I suppose what we want to say here is that VG10 can hold sharpness for a long time, to the point where it can be very readily compared to steel made using powdered metallurgy, and knives made well using powdered steels can cost significantly more than knives made using VG10 as they have higher manufacturing costs and labor hours needed, plus less artisans to work with them. Now, that original statement has truth behind it, but also a cost to match that isn't just financial. When sharpened to an incredibly refined edge, powdered steels can offer a very fine and precise cutting edge, which many users prefer over VG10, so it has a very high potential. And their sharpness does decline more slowly, as generally powdered steels are harder than VG10. For example, SG2 on average has a HRCC of 62, 2 points higher than VG10, and that's a big difference. This does come at the cost of an SG2 knife being significantly more time-consuming and difficult to sharpen to the same level though, which isn't for everyone. And again, this is all subjective, but we believe that people who like powdered steels may be considering VG10 from that point of view. Our stance is simply a little bit different. Metallurgy is a complex field and progress is slow. Steels that have benefits without many downsides are uncommon, and we feel VG10 does meet that goal. Even decades after its creation, it's still very popular in the market, which echoes that sentiment. Remember, we like powdered steels too, and you can achieve things with them that you can't with ingot steels. But VG10 really is very close to them and a lot easier to work with at a fraction of the price. Let's look at VG10 from a compositional point of view and break down what's in it. And steel compositions aren't always exact, they are produced in a range, so we're using averages to make it easier to understand. That said, treat these as semi-rough guidelines of concentration levels instead of exact rules. Now, one of the defining characteristics of VG10 is its inclusion of cobalt, to the point where sometimes people call VG10 cobalt steel. But other steels also have that name, so we discourage its use. It also has a good balance of molybdenum and chromium, providing good edge retention and rust resistance. As a result of this specific concentration, we believe that VG10 offers a steel that is relatively easy to sharpen and that it maintains its cutting performance for a long time, even without being sharpened to an extremely aggressive or tight edge. It can make a knife that very much is greater than the sum of its parts. Now, of course, we are a knife store. We are going to talk about what we make. And for this video, I just want to focus on one series of VG10 knife, the Sword FV10. We have many others, but this is our most popular, plus we almost always have it in stock. The Sword FV10 may not look Japanese knife, but believe it or not, with our Japanese audience, it's also our bestseller. It's what we call a monosteel knife, or Zenkor knife in Japanese. The greatest advantage of Zenkor knives is that the entire blade is very hard, as it's just one layer of steel. This transmits the cutting sensation of the knife directly into the user's hand, making it feel easy to control and nice to use. It also allows for greater precision when sharpening, as you can really feel it in your hand. For this particular series, we worked very closely with the artisans behind it, as it is still created through artisans, to achieve a harder heat treatment than many other VG10 knives. And this gives its cutting performance a noticeable difference, so we encourage you to give it a try. It's been a long-selling series of ours, and especially with our Gyuto buyers, they often return to get a petty to support it later. That said though, we are Sakai Ichimonji Mitsuhide, so many people are going to associate us with Sakai-made, forge-welded knives. There are certified traditional Sakai artisans that make knives using VG10 as well. For example, our Kitameki Suzuchirashi series comes in a variety of shapes, and they're all forge-welded. We also make Honyaki knives using VG10 if you are seeking the absolute pinnacle of VG10 knives. These are finished with a traditional geometry, including the Uraski on the back. This is absolute overkill in almost all situations, but I thought it'd be fun to show just how high-end VG10 knives can go, and they do have a use case. We find that people who run Japanese restaurants overseas seek VG10 single-edged knives like our honyaki. Rust-prone knives in many overseas kitchens simply aren't practical, and it can be difficult to get them back to Japan for sharpening or to have rust removed if the chef hasn't got the time to do it themselves. And many chefs don't. They have lots of work, and they're very busy as is. So a knife that stays sharp for a very long time, yet resists rust, can be crucial, especially when single-edged sharpening can be quite precise, which is where a VG10 honyaki comes into play. Again, in almost all situations, this is not needed. But if you are a chef outside of Japan and you want a Japanese culinary knife that will last for decades that is still easier to maintain, it is something to consider. And on that note, that is everything we really want to educate about VG10 kitchen knives. They're great all-rounders and serve in almost any kitchen well, from beginner to high-end user. Greater than the sum of their parts, they've stood on the podium for decades, and even with the introduction of powdered steels, VG10 is a brilliant steel to go with, especially if you're more price conscious. We have a deeper breakdown of the metal composition on our website in our Japanese knife steel blog series, so go take a look at that if you want to learn more, as well as see the knives we have on offer. Subscribe to us to learn more about Japanese knife steels, and take a look at this video where we compare VG10 against another well-known stainless steel called Ginsan, to help you decide which one is best for you. Okay.